Consider this a follow-up to the last time I talked about this game. I think it's become an undeniable fact that Crash Team Rumble has become the most polarizing game in the entire franchise, if not one of the most. And as someone who had high hopes for this game once upon a time, I can say with utmost certainty that it didn't really need to be this way. Let me start off by saying this does have a good foundation going for it. The gameplay is generally the best thing about it. There are so many ways you can go about collecting Wumpa, utilizing stage hazards, and generally working in harmony as a team. In theory, anyway. It does feel good to jump in once in a while for a few rounds, granted I know people are up for it. Once you look at everything surrounding the game outside of that, that's where things start to get extremely messy. At launch, Crash Team Rumble didn't start the strongest. We're talking one single game mode, and the entirety of the maps and characters you could count on just both hands alone, all the while being tied directly online with no offline features to speak of. And the one main thing keeping this thing afloat was its 3-month battle pass, meaning you'll be here a while if you want to unlock everything this season has to offer before it disappears, presumably forever, and then the cycle repeats shortly after. It had so little to offer beyond this, and as I said before, I would have forgiven all of this if it felt like it had more going for it right out the gate. Unfortunately, that's just not the case. Rather than being available from the start, all the new offerings ATs were drip-fed in between this one singular season. Ripperoo, Zap Trap, the new Bogged Down map, all released in small bursts on a weekly basis. And as time went on and people went on to voice how they felt regarding this game, Crash Team Rumble is generally in a troubled spot. You got only the most die-hard Crash fans playing this, you got people going out of their way to defend every little aspect of this game as if there is absolutely nothing wrong with it, and then there's people who did exactly what I did. Played it for a little while, saw what the game had to offer, took a good look at the writing on the wall, and realized this just wasn't working. The good thing is, I know I'm not alone with where I stand on this game, and I wasn't gonna sugarcoat how I felt either. If it wasn't clear before, this was something I was not going to play in the long term, and outside of a few weekly events, nothing really made me feel like I had to come running back as soon as possible. And as this season progressed and more events came out, oh man, did things get ugly. And I'm here to discuss every little bit of it. This is what Crash Team Rumble's first season was offering. If I had to start somewhere, it may as well be the new characters. Ripperoo was released in July, while Engine was released in August. How do they play out? Well, for starters, Ripperoo is actually pretty good. I should stress for the record that I do not bode well with blockers in general, so to see a character that's actually fun to play in this category is kind of refreshing. You can hop around throwing bombs, shooting yourself out of a cannon. It's actually good stuff. And if I'm ever going to play as any blocker in Crash Team Rumble, it's definitely going to be Ripperoo. His playstyle is something that just clicks with me. If only I could say the same about Engine. Granted, he's not the worst character in the game, but there's so much about him that needs a lot of work. I did get used to how he plays, from having homing missiles to launching himself in the air to having these little jam boxes you slam on the ground. This sounds like it would make for an interesting playstyle, but in practice, he's nowhere near as good as Coco, or especially Cortex. I don't think you can ever top this guy. It sounds like there's so much potential, but man, it felt like they rushed him right out the door. It leaves me hoping they really look into this character and give him all the adjustments and patches needed. Which kind of brings me to another thing. If there's one thing I appreciate about the way Toys for Bob's been handling all of this, it's how they've gotten out of their way to detail all the patch notes we've been getting for this game. Every week it seems they're always alert to everything we've been saying, giving this game all the tweaks it needs for the best possible experience. And credit where it's due, I will applaud them for this. It's not often we see a game get this level of treatment when it comes to patch notes, so I do appreciate it when I see it. As good as this is though, I'm not sure if it's enough to fix the overlying issues with this game. One of the biggest being its substantial lack of variety and content. I mean, you can't just rely on competitive matchmaking alone and expect everyone to be on board. And I know they're aware of this because lately they've been teasing the possibility of this thing called Party Mode, which is supposed to be an all-new 4-player experience. It sounds so promising, and I hope there's enough in here to give me more reasons to play this game. At the same time though, I hope it doesn't come with some kind of caveat. Like anytime we hear news of something coming to Crash Team Rumble, in the back of my mind, I know there's gonna be some kind of catch to it. Case in point, this season's weekly events. I did say I was gonna check these out, so what do we got? Well, for starters, I'm gonna disregard Zap Trap, because from what I've gathered, it's basically just more of the same, with the added obstacle of having an easy way of killing opponents. It sounds as fun and exciting as playing Grab the Coins. Stuff like Badge Bonanza and KO Overflow are just fodder for Battle Pass experience, which you only ever need if you want to catch up to level 100. Not really useful outside of that though. The only thing I feel is worth going after is double hero experience, which is especially useful because leveling characters past level 10 has become an absolute chore that I cannot be bothered to deal with half the time. So if this event ever comes up, of course I'm gonna be there for it. And then comes the real meat of this season, how they've been handing out all this new content. The way it works is you unlock these characters by collecting all sorts of items scattered throughout the map. Things like marbles for Ripperoo, fish for Bogged Down, rocket head posters for Engine, the list goes on. As you do this, you unlock the characters themselves along with all sorts of fun accessories from skins to character emotes, banners, and the like. So yeah, this sounds fine on paper, so what's the issue here? Oh boy, we're gonna have to talk about this now. It started out fine, you could collect everything at your own steady pace if you wanted to, but then as we approached August, this is where this system started to become a real problem. Remember when I said for everything Crash Team Rumble is offering, there's always going to be a catch? Sure, you can unlock all these new characters along with everything seen in this progression tier, but we're going to put a cap on how many items you can collect in a day, with an active timer that resets every 24 hours. I'm sorry, what? You see this here? This is what crushed what good faith I had left in this game. This is the kind of shit I'd expect from a mobile game, not something I waste $40 on. And you want to know the worst part? I think this was their plan from the beginning. This was discovered as soon as Ripperoo came along. The only reason I held off on talking about this right away is because it was discovered you could still unlock everything in this progression tier no problem, making this system utterly useless. I'm guessing Toys for Bob must have caught on to the fact, which is why starting from TNT time, we're seeing this 6 items a day limit in all its disgusting glory. Had this been anything like the Ripperoo event, or Bogged Down for that matter, where you can collect everything without having to worry about this system, I would have had no issue with this at all. Unfortunately, this game doesn't seem to be on our side apparently. If you want to have a system in place where restricting players on how they can play is the aim of the game, fine, but don't be surprised if so few people want to stick around in the long term because of this. God, this is rough. I don't want to rag on this game any more than I already have, but the more I stuck around to see what they were offering, the more red flags I was seeing. One season in, and this is what Crash Team Rumble is shaping up to be. An online-only game with so few offerings and modern live service practices that only incentivize one thing, to capitalize on that fear of missing out. And you know what? I shouldn't have to put up with this. With Season 2 coming around real soon and hearing all the stuff they're promising, I can only hope this is more than enough to fix this game's current sorry state, because I don't think I can stress this enough. Crash Team Rumble can be fun under the right circumstances, but once you look at the bigger picture outside of the gameplay, that's where everything starts to fall apart. Will I be around for the second season? Probably, but if these overlying issues persist, I don't know, man. It's gotten harder for me to feel any genuine hype for this game anymore. I can only hope this game gets better before I decide to drop it entirely. I've given this game the benefit of the doubt, and this is what I have to show for it. And as I close this off, I must reiterate, this game is good. I do see why it can be a fun time for people, but it can be so much more. Much more than what we're seeing right now. Maybe this second season will give us just that. Who knows? Thank you all so much for watching. This is Miss Dan signing out, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everybody.